Well, hello, my friend. Welcome back to another episode of the Chaos to Peace podcast, where I talk about how clutter is so much more than you think. Thank you so much for allowing me back into your ears. Well, hello, my friend. I'm Conny Graf, your host. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm very excited to welcome Katherine McCord as a guest today. Katherine says even when she was a little girl, she played HR, human resources, and one time she even fired her own mother. We will talk about that incident a little bit more in the episode. But with that background, it's no surprise that she's the founder and president of the people operation consulting firm Titan Management, and that she's developed the first ever anti-bias applicant tracking system and created the Make Accommodations Standard process and campaign. We talk more about that too in the episode. Katherine is also an international speaker and the founder of the Neuroverse, a non-for-profit organization dedicated to neurodiversity. Katherine and we talk about what's wrong in the HR world and in HR tech, why using years of experience as a hiring marker is a poor hiring practice, and what to look out for instead. How we can get creative in hiring, and how by breaking the ego defense, we create a healthier communication style and remove stress. Okay, without further ado, let's jump into this conversation with Katherine McCord. Welcome, Katherine. I'm very excited to have you on the podcast. How are you today?
I'm tired, but good. And I'm excited to be here. That's the main thing.
Yeah, and I'm excited you're here. So I always start with the question, where in the world are you? Because I have an international audience. And then also I ask my guests to share something maybe quirky or funny about them that has nothing to do with what we're talking afterwards.
Oh, all right. So, hi, I'm Katherine, and I am in Florida, United States, in the southern part, not quite down to Miami, but in the southern Florida area. It's very beautiful. The weather's typically very nice here. And something unusual about me. Two things. Number one is that I used to volunteer taking care of lions and tigers and bears, literally. And I have played with full-grown big cats and wolves. I even have wolves live in my house at one point. And I've pet hyenas and all kinds of interesting things. So that's an interesting, kind of weird and quirky thing about me.
That is amazing. Now I'm jealous.
It was incredible. And actually, I learned a lot from it about communication, because you can't just sit there and have a conversation with them in the traditional method.
Yes.
You have to read energy and use body language and use tonality and things like that. And it's really interesting.
Yeah, and it's also a little bit about leadership, I would think, too. It's like, I just know, like, I live with horses, so they're also stronger than a human being.
Oh, yeah.
They might not be so dangerous like a lion or a bear.
Oh, they
or
can
something.
be.
But they can be if they get scared, right? Now, in general, they're very peaceful living creatures, right? Yes. Very they're healers, but they can get very dangerous. And especially when you're riding them too, it's like you have to be the leader, and otherwise it can get dangerous very quickly.
It can get bad real quick. Now, your dynamic with a predator animal is a little different than that, because I rode horses for many years, so I know exactly what you mean. But it is the same in terms of building that trust and building that relationship with them, and it's very interesting. Yeah, it's a unique experience.
This is very unique. So I could now have a whole conversation about that. That's not why you're here.
It's not.
So we're back to where we want to go. So I warned you already a little bit. I want to ask you this. I read in your bio that already as a little girl, you were playing HR. I never heard anybody playing HR, but I find that's funny. And then you even fired your own mother. So now you have to tell me this story.
I did. I was like 6 years old, and so I started playing HR, just to be very clear. So both of my parents involved me in their work from the time I was teeny little creature. So my father is a professional musician and a collegiate educator. Okay. My mother is an HR and recruiting professional. That's what she does in the medical field. And so I played convention and teacher and HR and all that. I really like convention and HR. Those are my favorites. And so for the time I was little itty bitty, I would make my mom feel like I fill out applications, an interview, and we would have employee relations meetings. And during one of these meetings, I was about 6 years old, and I don't remember now why, and neither does she, but I fired her because she did something wrong. I don't know what. And I told her that today was her last day and that she had to leave. And mom thought it was absolutely hilarious. People are always concerned, like, how did she respond to that? Did that make her feel sad? I was like, absolutely not. She loved it. She thought it was epically awesome.
I would have thought
And
she's proud of you.
she was very proud of me. And she even gave me tips as to how to better fire somebody next time.
Awesome. So it was kind of destiny. No, no. It
It was.
was kind of like no wonder you ended up kind of like in the HR field, right?
Oh,
Like,
I'm very much, yeah, yeah. I do people operations consulting
yeah,
across the US. And actually, I've gone outside the US a little bit, up to Canada and a couple of areas in Europe as well, consulting on different things, anything human in the workplace, all the way hiring to firing, and then doing HR tech too, which is interesting. But yeah,
yeah,
so yeah, it was obvious that that's where I was going, I would say.
yeah. It sounds
It's
like it.
fun.
I mean, if you play at the 6-year-old HR, then you
You're
probably
going to
have,
be in HR. There's no getting around it at that point, I think.
yeah.
Yeah. if you're that strange of a kid, I think that's what you're gonna go into. But it's cool too because I also use what I gained from my father a lot, not only when I'm teaching my clients, but I go out and I teach classes now and I teach people, how to better take care of the humans and also how to better take care of themselves in some cases because I do a lot of work around neurodiversity and disability and doing work around that. And one of the coolest new things I've been teaching that I absolutely am loving because it's made such a difference in my life is breaking the biological ego mechanism to respond to curiosity.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of like what drew me in when you were saying that you would want to talk about this. So
Yeah.
you will have to help me a bit. So I haven't been in corporate in a long time, and I feel like as a small business owner, we don't talk or we don't have the same issues, especially with hiring and firing. So,
Not
but
always.
well, so yeah, like the minute you have employees, you do, right? But I
Right.
mean, the smaller businesses, like I have just some contractors, right? That
Oh, right.
also helps when you know some people skills and stuff like that,
It
definitely. But
does.
one word that also in your on your website, I believe that got me curious is the HR tech. So quickly, because you
Yeah.
mentioned it already, HR tech. So quickly
Yeah.
tell us what is HR tech before we move on
Yeah,
into.
sure. So it's exactly like if you were, realizing I work in human resources, that's the connection. So that's the HR and then
Mhm.
it's technology. So there's technology designed specifically for human resources.
Okay.
And those are the technologies that help us during the hire process. So think everything from job boards like Indeed, Monster, Career Builder, all of these types of things, even LinkedIn
Yeah.
on their job board side
Okay.
all the way to applicant tracking systems and then HRIS systems, which is what's called like employee records, payroll, benefits, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, because you were saying I read a statement somewhere that there is something wrong and with that HR
A
tech and
lot of things are wrong with HR
exactly.
tracking
And that you feel like you
systems.
know how to fix it. So I want to hear all about that.
I actually designed the first ever anti-bias applicant
Yes,
tracking system.
I read
I
that.
did. I did. And I took it to Web Summit twice and it did very well there. And it got a lot of good attention and all of that. And I'm now working with an organization who is helping to um, reshape hiring for neurodivergent individuals. And they're actually making a video game that can prove skills and then communicate to employers and help them find candidates. That way, it's absolutely fascinating. That's Haystack. They're incredible. Um, and so it really and truly, the problem with HR tech, and actually other technologies as well, but what's interesting is in most of IT, universal design is a common practice. It's a well-known term, where you design for everybody, you design flexibly so that you can pivot when you
Mm-hmm.
need to, these types of things. You design with the idea that you will have to evolve and grow, and it's going to be used for everybody, right? Well, in
Mm-hmm.
HR tech, they don't do that.
What?
It's like, here is this baseline technology, and this is just how it is, and too bad if you don't like it. And the application process, everybody knows, is just horrible. Like, it never goes well, really. And it uses resumes, and resumes are backwards, and there's been study after study showing that resumes are ineffective. And so shifting HR tech and shifting the application process, specifically with my design, was about removing bias, making it a system that made sense. Because one of the problems with resumes is that there's no right way to do them, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's some definitely wrong things to do,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's not really a right way. There's not a set correct way. So people are just guessing at
Yeah.
what's going to work for them. And that's
Mm-hmm.
incredibly frustrating when this is the one document that's going to get you a job or not, right?
Or not.
And
Mm-hmm.
so redesigning all of that and learning to think of how to better represent humans, because hiring is not about a piece of paper, it's about humans. And
Yeah.
so how to best represent these humans and help them bring out their best selves, because the truth is it is not the job of a candidate to be good at interviewing. That's our job in
Mm-hmm.
HR and
Mm-hmm.
recruiting. That's our job, that's our expertise.
That you
So
bring
we
out the best in them, right?
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. Yes, we
Mm-hmm.
need to help them shine, not like try to trick them and
Yes.
manipulate them, or expect them to tell us everything. That's not how that goes. We're supposed to be the experts. So, and I say supposed to be because we all know that's not always the case. But
Mm-hmm.
designing so that people can best showcase themselves is highly important. So my system that I designed, just to keep it really brief, it was about highlighting achievements,
Mm-hmm.
skills, talents, and your internal missions, what matters to you for
Mm-hmm.
alignment. And then there was some ability to, prove it with past experience and things like that. But it was really more about, where are you going? What can you do and where are you going? Because
Mm-hmm.
hiring, again, is about the future, right? It's about the future and it's about people. So we need to learn about the person, and we need to fix the problem and move into the future together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I could imagine, like when you say HR tech and when this tech is involved and everything tries to become streamlined, that could be really hard, right? To look at the individual and let them shine, because what we're trying to do is pressing them into these little boxes and into the zeros and the ones.
Yes, and that's why you have to give a little bit of variance in how you communicate. So I tried to embrace the different communication styles, different options. So there were like skill drop downs where people could say the company would select the skills that matter to them, and then the human would say, okay, this is how I rank in these skills. So it was a basic drop down. And then there were kind of open ended, like, okay, what are some of your best achievements? Tell us about that. What are some of your relevant projects? Tell us about that. Tell us about your missions, these kinds of things. But then also giving alternate wordings to questions and all, because not everybody's brain works the same. So you want to
Mm-hmm.
present information in different ways, and
Mm-hmm.
and allow for that. And then there was an option to include, if you wanted to, completely optional, um, a creative representation of yourself, whatever that was. So there could be a website, it could be a drawing, it could be a resume, it could be a letter that you wrote, like whatever it is. Like, here's how you want to present yourself.
Mm-hmm.
This is it. And so there was the creativity aspect, and then there was a guided. These are the things we need to know, but you tell us however you want to tell us how
Mm-hmm.
how this works out for you. And it worked out really good. It was really interesting. And the idea too would be that, people would do this, kind of, and then be able to kind of repopulate with some of the basic information, but be able to then, align themselves to each role. But I think we need to start hiring in a way that's a lot more focused on humanity, that's a lot more focused on the future, and that's not about um, looking, trying to trick people. I mean, I swear to you, like, it's so funny how many applications and all, and how many people, the way that they interview is like, well, ha ha ha, they said this instead of this. I'm like, what, why, what is that?
Yeah.
What is that approach? How is that helping anybody? Um, and so just kind of steering away. And then also the anti-bias aspect is it's not just about things like race and um, age and ability and that and all of that type of thing, which all of that is very highly important too. So we definitely created it to be anti-bias in those ways, but also things like what font you use, what colors you use, things like that. Those create biases in people's minds. Even your
Hmm.
name creates a bias. So
Yeah.
our system didn't show names. You were represented by a tagline, and that was it.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
like I said, I haven't been in a long time in the position that I had to apply for a job or I had to hire. But I remember back in the day, there was the discussion whether they should actually really include a photo or not because so many people were biased. And I mean, I come originally from Switzerland. Like, I don't know how it is now because A, I don't live in Switzerland anymore. And B, like I said, I haven't applied for a job in a long time. But we had to put pictures there. So you had to make sure you look
Mhm.
presentable on the picture. And I remember too when I was leaving a job and I was helping them to find a replacement for me, and all these applicants came in. And like you just said, they all laugh about the photo. And it's so, when you think
Mhm.
about it, it's so mean. Who are we to
Yeah.
laugh about how somebody looks on a photo? I, on 99% of the photos, look absolutely stupid. That doesn't mean I am stupid, right? So I like your approach that we're trying to get the bias down, that we're trying
Yes.
to not hide the person behind it, but
No.
reverse it. Let the person shine from the inside out rather than we're just paying attention to the cover or the facade,
Absolutely.
right?
Hire the person, not the wrapping. That's the thing.
Yes.
The person, not the wrapping. And
Yeah.
it's so very important. The other really weird trend here in the States, and I don't know if this is true in other countries right now, but the other very bizarre trend is that companies are asking way too much information in applications. They're like, what's your sexuality? What's your religion? I'm like, okay, this is a little too nosy for me. Like, you don't need to know
Are they
this.
even allowed to do that?
So, so here's the thing. So there are in the United States, and this is true actually in a lot of countries, there are government like regulated questions that you can ask. So
Hmm.
it goes into and the way it works in the States is that when you answer these questions, they kind of go into a black hole. They're really only used for government purposes or reporting purposes, and nobody ever
Hmm.
actually can
Hmm.
see it in terms of your application. But these questions are not that. And so they're actually visible to the hiring team. And the answer to your question is no, they are actually not allowed to ask this. Well,
Hmm.
they can, asking it is stupid because you can be charged, because if you don't hire that person, then you can be charged with discrimination. So can you ask it? Depending on how you ask it, yes, and depending on how you ask it, yes, possibly, but it's not a smart question because then if you don't hire that person, it can be seen as discrimination. And I also always want to know why are you asking that in such a visible way? If you want to just collect inclusion data and you want to make sure that you're being inclusive, that can be done anonymously. You can send a separate survey after the fact that lets them know it's completely anonymous. This is
Hmm.
just for data collection, but it should not be a visible part of the application process because you
Yeah.
cannot convince me that that's not tokenism or that it's not or that it's not some form of discrimination.
And I would think
It's
too,
like
it has no relevance for most
no,
jobs, right? Like there
no,
might
no.
be the odd job out there where it would have
Oh
a
yeah.
relevance, right?
If you're working for a church, ask if you can ask people if they're that faith. That's fine. That's not
Yeah,
weird. That actually makes sense.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
but if you're an LGBTQIA focused organization and you want to know if somebody is part of the community, I can even get behind that. But like I but in general, no, it has nothing to do. Like if
Yeah,
you're a nurse, if you're in HR, if you're in IT, if you're in sales, it has literally nothing to do with your job. None of
exact,
that has anything to
exact.
do with your job.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think we're still kind of like it's still a ways to get there because I just know also like government asks a lot of questions of employers that they have to answer
Mhm.
and then somehow they have to acquire this. But I'm thinking you could inquire or acquire these informations once you hire the person, right? Then you can ask
Also
them, okay,
that.
how do you
Yeah.
identify? The religion is anyways out of the question in my book, so it's none of anybody's
Yes.
business, right?
Yeah.
What I believe in.
Yeah.
But you can ask them, do you identify as male or female or not, none, like
Yeah,
none of
and
it, or
there can even be practical reasons for that post hire, depending, including. It's funny to me because a lot of applications now are asking for your pronouns, and I'm going, you don't need to know that at the time of application. You need to maybe know that at the time of interview or at the
yeah,
time of hire. You should know that, but you don't need to know that at the time of application. So it's real suspect to me that you're asking that at the time of application. Um, so when I'm coaching companies, what I tell them is be sure that you're asking things at the appropriate time.
mm,
That's the
mm-hmm,
thing. And I also work with a lot of companies to turn accommodations into standard options. So stop making everything a hoopla, stop making people jump through hoops just to have things that make them more comfortable. And accommodations don't have to be because you have a disability. It can just be, this is what makes me the most comfortable when I work. And we should be trying to make our teams more comfortable because then they work more in a more healthy manner, in a more productive manner, more efficient manner. And so changing everything to just ask people, how do you like to work? What do you need? What do you need to make you comfortable? And you just
mm-hmm,
have a standard list and there's a fill in the blank at the bottom, and people just tell you what they need to do their job effectively.
mm-hmm,
Blah, blah. And the companies that have implemented this, I've gotten extremely positive feedback, and they've done it with
mm-hmm.
candidates, they've done it with people that were already onboarded into the organization, and it's wildly successful. People love it because they're comfortable at work and they feel seen and heard, and they feel accepted the second that they come in the door. And then for the people who do have disabilities, they're not afraid to ask because
Yeah.
you've just made it like just everybody could do it. It's no big deal.
Yeah, yeah. I actually really like this development because like when I think back, it was basically you just had to fit into their culture
Yep.
and
Yep.
that's it. And if you couldn't handle it, then it was your fault and
Yeah.
kind of
Too
like
bad for you.
too
Too
bad
bad
for
for
you.
you. And
Everybody
we've
else is fine, at least towards the outside. Behind the door, it's probably not everybody fine, but we can all
yeah, no,
pretend.
it's true. And to go back to, we were talking about animals earlier. One example I always give people is like, well, they can't fit into my culture. They just can't hack it. I'm like, okay. I was like, have you ever seen a lion? Yes, one of the greatest predators on the face of the earth. Yes. What would happen if you took a lion and threw it into the ocean? Well, they'd probably drown. Mm-hmm. So it's not that they're, and then what if you yelled at them for that and told them how useless they were? Why are you being a bad lion?
Yeah.
Why are you being a bad lion in the middle of the ocean? Well, I wasn't supposed to be here, silly. You put me here, So, so I said, you have to let people be in the element that makes sense for them. So
Yeah.
if you put a lion in the savannah, he's going to thrive. So the
Hmm.
idea is that every lion should get to be in the savannah, in their own savannah, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
That's what that needs to be. And it's not that hard to be accommodating. This is what always cracks me up. So I'm from the South. Originally, I'm from Texas, not Florida. I want to make that very clear because, Florida man's a thing. But it's true. Um, I literally just read a story not long ago. It was older, but I heard it come up in a comedic routine, and I was like, "Nuh-uh." And I looked it up, and sure enough, it's true. A person in Florida held up a Wendy's trying to get their monies, a fast food restaurant tried to
Yeah.
hold them up with an alligator as
What?
their weapon, and they threw the alligator at the people. So that's why I always clarify that I am not from Florida.
You're not
So
from Florida. Okay. No
I just
throwing
happen to live
alligators.
here.
It's
No,
animal
I do not
abuse,
throw
anyways.
alligators. No, I would never abuse an animal like that. So, not that that's my only reason for not doing that. So originally I'm from Texas, and my family is like super Southern, and they love to throw the best parties, right? And if people listening have never been to a true Southern party, let me explain this to you. Every detail is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's dietary preferences, not just their needs, but their wants, are there. The lighting is correct. The seating is all in the most pleasing form. It is arranged so that different, and if it's at tables or things like that, it's arranged so that the conversations will all flow well. You put the people where they should go. every detail. The color palettes are nice. Everybody is welcomed. People are served. They don't go get their own anything. They are served and taken care of. Every little tiny detail is considered. And it's so I grew up with this, and it was natural for me to accommodate people, to be welcoming of people. And so it's always struck me as weird when other people don't want to do that. But I do understand it's not in everybody's culture. So I always work with people to think of it as just just be welcoming. That's it. You're just being welcoming and polite.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
it. That's all that this is about, is just taking care of people. Like, you wouldn't bring your mother-in-law into your home and say, fix your own food and make your own bed and do your own laundry. Like, who would do that?
Yeah.
So be welcoming and be accommodating. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I love this. I didn't know that about Texas, but that's good to know. We have to
Well, not
definitely
all
come.
Texans are that way, but my family is certainly that way. They're good old, like,
Yeah.
good old
So
take care of everybody and accommodate the people.
yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. I wanna circle back to something else that you said with that ego defense. And you said that when we're breaking that, we are creating healthier communication and a healthier work environment. Definitely, I can totally see that.
Oh
Now,
yeah.
question is, of course, how do we break this ego? Because in a way, we're all growing up with having it, right? Like in a
Oh
way.
yeah. Oh yeah. It's nothing to be ashamed of. And I always like to
It's
say
my
that
daily
first.
battle with my ego here.
It is for literally everybody. It's okay. So the ego mechanism is actually a part of your brain. It's okay. It's part of what we call the primitive brain. Um,
Mhm.
and it is just inherent in all human beings. It is nothing to be ashamed of that you have it. And what the ego mechanism is it's part of the fight or flight response system. And the brain needs to be correct. Okay. The
Mhm.
brain that it reads correct as safe. So when something reads as different from us, as counter to what we think,
Mhm.
anything along those lines, our brain throws up defenses and puts us into a fight or flight response. Now, sometimes it's extreme and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's a little bit more subtle. Um,
Mhm.
but it's interesting because it will actually activate different chemical responses and stress out your body.
Yeah.
So whenever you think about, if you read something that's completely, or somebody says something that's completely contrary to what you believe, and it's a belief that really matters to you kind of get that tense
Mhm.
feeling, right? And most people will feel it around the tops of the shoulders or nape of the neck, that kind of area when this happens. And the reason for that is that that's where the sympathetic nervous system is, and that's what creates your fight or flight. There's also a separate nervous system there uh, that helps you engage and move, and so that's also important in this process. So when your ego mechanism is activated, your body actually becomes stressed out, and
Mhm.
you automatically start defending yourself, which is not even needed in most cases. So
Yeah.
for instance, it can be something as simple as somebody saying, I love Texas, and somebody else saying, I don't. Well, I'm not in any danger if somebody doesn't like my home state. I
Yeah,
can
yeah, yeah.
vehemently disagree with them, but but I am not in any danger. I don't need to defend myself against that statement. And the same thing happens in day to day life. So somebody can say to you, I need this, or hey, this isn't really working for me. Can we do it this way? And our immediate biological response is defensiveness, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
to stop that, what you want to do is learn to recognize when it's been turned on. So notice that tension. So what I did was, when I started working on this, is I intentionally engaged in things that I knew would elicit that response. And I paid attention to where I felt it. Where
Mhm.
did I feel it in my body? Because you always feel these types of responses. And in a healthy body, you do. I want to specify that. So you feel the response. Okay, there we go. So that's where that is. That's I can recognize it. And here's what that does. When you move it into the conscious brain, now it's no longer you're no longer on autopilot. Now it's, hey, I feel that. I have a new response I'm going to do. I don't like that. I don't care for
Mhm.
that. No, thank you.
Mhm. Yes.
so so what you do then is you take yourself through some You can do grounding exercises, you can do reprogramming exercises. It's really up to you, but it really takes about 5 or 10 minutes to start the pattern. And what you do is you establish to your body that when whatever it is that you pick as your actions, it can be a breath in and out, it can be tapping your fingers very lightly, it can be touching your leg, whatever you feel like, that when you do that, you are safe and you have food and you have shelter and nothing is trying to attack you and there is clean air to breathe. Those are the things. So you just associate that action with safety so that then when you feel that ego mechanism rising up, you do that action real quick, take a little breath, and you actually, by the way, will feel the chemicals start to turn off. When that happens, your body will go, oh, we're safe. Okay. And then you ask a question and follow up. And the reason for asking a question is that that starts to trigger different chemicals in our brain. And you look at the person and you connect to the person. And if you're not comfortable looking somebody in the eye, just look at them in general, wherever you're comfortable being, but make a connection with them and really listen to what they're saying and engage with what they're saying as though this is the first time you've ever heard this and you need to know more. That's the idea, is that you really want to connect to this other human. And what starts to happen is that your brain synapses actually change. So your brain starts to actually change shape and change design. And your body starts to respond differently. And eventually you don't have to do that little trigger anymore. Your body just starts defaulting to curiosity. And that ego mechanism kicks in less and less and less. It never goes completely away, but it will kick in less and less and less. And so your brain synapses changes. And what's cool is that then instead of the stressful chemicals, we get the happy chemicals. Like we get oxytocin, some people get serotonin, and you become calmer. There's less chance of escalated heart rate, less anxiety, less heart problems. All of these things decrease. And when our brain synapses change and evolve, our brain is capable of making better decisions, more broad scope decisions, and it automatically defaults to wanting to learn more instead of defending itself. And so we come up with a completely different way of engaging. We connect better to other humans. We start understanding them. We start realizing that a lot of these things over the years that we took as offensive were not actually offensive. Like, at all.
I actually, that reminds me, I actually read an article the other day. I'm a little bit of a geek and I always have to read all kinds of stuff.
Same.
I'm very interested in all that. And I think they did a study, it's somehow anonymous, but they took also because we just talked earlier about the US and the elections and everything. So they took people from the different parties and anonymous, and then they figured out that they actually both have the same values on the inside. They just communicated different, and the whole bickering back and forth is basically because everybody has their ego up and defends themselves instead of becoming curious and say, okay, why do you see it that way? And I think this is so beautiful. Like anytime we can train that. We don't need to be neuroscience people or whatever. We can train that anytime we get triggered and we want to like defend ourselves or whatever. That switch to just become more curious, because we could also misunderstand, right? We could have misunderstood. Maybe the person said it wrong.
All the time.
Or the person was nervous, especially like when we want to get back to HR and hiring and everything. The person was maybe nervous. The sweaty hands, and then it came out wrong, and then you were like, oh.
The one that always gets me is when people say, I know why they said that. Do you?
Yeah.
You weren't inside their head. You don't know. So ask the question, okay, what makes you say that? Or, okay, tell me about why you believe that. And I love that you use that example of politics, because I did an example once in a class not long ago, a little less than a year ago, where I was talking about the ego mechanism and defeating it. And I used the example. I said, okay, I'm going to bring up something controversial. Don't worry, we're not going to discuss it in depth. I said, but I just want to make a point. I said, so we're going to talk about the issue of caring for transgender children. And everybody got super tense. And I said, okay. So on one quote side, you have the people that care about gender affirmation and making sure a child feels included and making sure they're worried about suicidality and they're worried about mental health and wellness. I was like, oh yeah, people are nodding. So on the other quote side, you have people that are really worried about a child's physical health and again about mental health, and they're worried about the wellness of the child. Or people are like nodding, okay, yeah. I said, what I hear is that everybody here cares about kids
Yeah.
and everybody here wants to take care of children. I
Yeah.
said, you just have different ideas of how to do it.
Yeah.
And people were like, oh my God. I mean, people were like mind blown by this, that they were
Mhm.
on the same side as these other people. I said, nobody here is on opposite sides. You're on the same side. You just
Yes.
have a different way of how to get there. I said, so go in. So then we did an exercise and I gave them all controversial work topics. And I said, okay. And I put people together that felt opposite. And I said, talk this out from the standpoint that you have the same mission. Find your mission, find your
Mhm.
your shared mission, and then approach it that way, and
Yeah.
then find a way to get there together. And it worked so effectively. Like it's that simple. Just shut down that ego, ask questions, and engage. It
Yeah.
works.
Yeah. And I even heard of studies where they asked the person to fight for the opposite opinion, right? Like and because that also gets you to ask questions. Okay, so how would then a person that has the opposite opinion of me think? Why would
Yeah,
they say what they say? And this is also just creating curiosity. And then all of a sudden we're reduced back to our human beings, and we're all just
yes,
caring and maybe afraid of change or struggling with change or whatever,
yeah,
right? And we can become more compassionate with each other all of a sudden instead of just this bickering back and forth all the time.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
it saves relationships, marriages, jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, it does when you connect. It's like, oh, okay, like we're just people. And it's funny because in a professional setting, it's funny because I've had people say, okay, well, I have a speech that I give, and it's called "Fire the Jerk." Okay, so people know that I am not afraid to fire people. That's very well established. I mean, like I said, I fired my mother when I was 6 years old. So
Yeah, exactly. You
no fear.
started early.
No, I started real early. There is no fear of this action. But what I tell people is I said the way that you define the jerk versus a misunderstanding is in the response.
Hmm.
So if you come to somebody and you say, hey, this was hurtful or harmful or was a problem or whatever it is you need to say to them, if their response is I'm sorry, or oh, okay, can you explain that to me, or I didn't
Hmm.
mean that, you
Hmm.
can work with that.
Hmm.
You can work with that. Okay, when the response is I don't see the problem,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
um I just don't, this is what I'm going to do, blah 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 blah. If they dig in, jerk, fire them, be gone with them. And I say the same thing for your life, because people cling to other people that are toxic in their
Mm.
lives. They're just horrible humans. And I'm like, why? Why are you giving your
Yeah.
peace to this person? Why? Why are you doing that? Just let them go. Be gone
Hmm.
with them. Poof. And and I've told people, it's like, I fired family members. I have fired
Hmm.
friends. I was like,
Hmm.
if we come to an impasse, I wish you the best. I hope you have a great life, but I'm
Hmm.
not going to be there for it because this is not working for me.
Yeah.
And so I just move on. And it's not about not connecting. I have friends that have different political beliefs, different religious beliefs, different like everything you can imagine. And that's fine. And we all have discussions around that, and that's fine.
Hmm.
But if there's an ethical difference,
Hmm.
I don't tolerate that in my life. And I always tell people, if somebody does not share your integrity, vote with your feet.
Yeah.
And just keep on walking.
I love that you said that. So I call this the social clutter, right? Like this is literally social clutter. And I love what you said here because earlier in the conversation, you said how accommodating you and your
Yeah,
family are to guests and everything. So that
yeah.
doesn't mean when you're accommodating that you have to be the carpet that everybody walks over, right? You
Yes.
can have your integrity, you can have your boundaries, and you can have tough, no, not tough, but strong opinions about
Yeah.
what you tolerate and what you don't tolerate.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you can be very accommodating and kind.
Yeah.
And we see this all, right? So
Oh yeah. And
I love
there is a difference. I love that you distinguish between those things. And
that.
yes, it is completely different. And I tell people there's a difference between a difference in opinion and a difference in integrity.
Hmm. Hmm.
Those are two different things. It's just like people talk politics. I said, I don't care if you have a political difference for me. A political difference is something like I support social programs, I don't. I
Hmm.
think that's a political difference. Okay.
Hmm.
One person can say I believe in states' rights, the other person will say I don't. That's a political difference. A an ethical difference would be, I think that I think that all races should be free, and I don't believe in slavery. And somebody else saying I do believe in slavery. That's an ethical difference. Okay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
we're not on the same page. And so making that distinction is very important. And the same thing in the workplace. And
Mm-hmm.
I've guided a lot of leaders through the process of letting go of people that had once been great contributors in
Mm-hmm.
their organization, that at some point they found lack of mission alignment. And in the company, it can even just be mission. Maybe you want to go this way and they want to go this way. Well, if you're not going the same way as the company, it's no longer a fit. It doesn't mean that you're bad or wrong or anything like that. It's just this is no longer a fit.
Yeah.
And that's a mourning process for a lot of leaders. It is.
Yeah.
It's a mourning process
Especially if
to
the
lose.
employee is maybe otherwise really like very
Yeah.
reliable, does a good job and all
Yeah,
that. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And you
yeah.
don't want a yes man. It's not about being like wanting only yes men. You definitely don't want that. You want people to push back. But when it comes to you're going in different directions,
Mm,
it's time
yeah.
to call it. And actually I like there was a leader I worked with recently, and what they did was they told the person, you're not fired, but I need you to start looking for another job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, and we're going to start slowly taking things off of your plate.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to do. So they
Mm-hmm.
didn't cause them to lose their job because the person still did good practical work, right? So they just kind of shifted their duties while they were
Mm-hmm.
looking. The person looked for a job. They were references for them.
Mm-hmm.
Great terms.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was kosher.
Yeah.
It was really slick. I really liked it. I was like, that's a great way to handle that when you're able to. You can't do that in every circumstance, but in this circumstance, it made sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I could really
Yes.
talk with you forever. This is very interesting conversation, but I want to be a bit mindful of how long I'm keeping you here.
You're
Um,
fine.
I have one question. So, like a lot of my audience is small business owners. So, can you maybe share one thing that you would wish that people do different when they hire somebody, like or one small step that they could start doing differently.
Mm.
I just noticed you said somewhere that just the experience that a candidate has is not the best way to evaluate them, right? So what would you say where we
Yeah.
should go as small business owners?
So a couple of things. Number one, be accommodating in your interview process. Remember, it's your job to be good at interviewing, not theirs. You're not hiring them to be interviewed. You're hiring them to do whatever the job is. So it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if they stink out loud at interviewing. Frankly, it doesn't matter if you stink out loud at interviewing. Just make sure you're actually asking them the questions that matter.
Be a human
Um,
being.
and yes, exactly. And then when it comes to interviewing, when it comes to looking for the right person, don't just focus on titles and like you know you know exact job duties. Think of the problem that you want solved, and then find somebody who can solve it. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter how they're able to. So, for instance, I am really great at hiring events, right? I was right out of the gate. And the reason for that is that I have event experience that I got working for the travel partner to the Dallas Cowboys. I have I have customer service experience. I have a little bit of marketing experience that I got a completely different job. And then I have my recruiting experience, right? So from all these different things, I am now very good at this thing. And so it doesn't matter if they held a certain title. Can they do the thing that you need them to do?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. So just
Yeah.
focus on that. Focus on solving the problem. No ideal candidate profiles. That just creates bias.
Hmm.
And even again, bias is not just about discrimination against the protected classes. It's everything. So don't do that. Just focus on the problem that you need solved and find someone who can do it. That's
Which
it.
serves your company the best, right? Because that's
Yeah,
what you want. Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely.
So tell the audience a little bit, where can they find out more about you? Like where should they go if they wanted to connect, if they were interested to hear about all your insights and your programs
Yeah.
that you
And I
develop?
welcome literally everybody to connect with me. If you have questions, if you just want to talk, just reach out. I'm always down. I'm on LinkedIn all over the place. So definitely come find me on LinkedIn. My speaker site is kmccordspeaking.com. And then the professional site is titanmanagementusa.com.
Okay, I will put the links in the show notes for the people who are interested. They can just
That's
so
right.
before we say goodbye, any last words, tips? Did I not ask anything that you wish you could have talked about?
No, I think you were like, we just kind of ran the gamut, which was kind of fun. No, I really, my last tip is learn to break that ego mechanism of responding curiosity, because it
Mm,
not only escalates your career, it will elevate your life in a way that, trust me, you never imagined until it happens.
yeah. Thanks so much for coming on, sharing your wisdom, your experience, and all that with us. I'm
Thank
very
you so
happy
much.
you came. Thanks so much, Katherine. Hey, I'm Connie, your host, and I wanted to thank you for listening to the podcast today. Did you know you can bring your chaos to me? If you struggle with chaos in your office, on your desk, in your files and finances, use the link in the show notes and sign up for a complimentary 30 minutes Chaos to Peace Jumpstart call